throwing eggs, throwing punches, and setting off smoke bombs. These may sound like the antics of children, but this out-of-line behavior is not taking place on a playground.
Nobody actually predicted that we would see something like smoke bombs and egg throwing inside the parliament.
It's politicians gone wild, and news crews are there to record democracy at its messiest. April 27th, 2010. The Ukrainian parliament gathers in its chamber to ratify the extension of Russia's Black Sea Fleet's lease in the Ukraine. It's a controversial deal, and Russia Today news correspondent Alexei Yaroshevsky is outside the building reporting on protests.
This whole issue has been making waves in Ukrainian politics ever since the collapse of the Soviet Union. Russia had no base of its own to hold its own ships and its troops. That's why it had been paying a rent for using the Black Sea base in the Ukrainian Crimea. The previous administration with President Yushchenko at power, they demanded that this base had to be removed after several years.
But when the next president is elected, he signs a new agreement with Russia that extends the lease for another 25 years. The majority of parliament supports the deal, but some politicians and many Ukrainians vehemently disagree. And they intend to make their objections known.
Me and my crew, we were working outside the parliament. There had been very large-scale protests in the wake of the ratification. Closer to 1,500 men were here protesting. Lots of police, and the atmosphere was very tensed indeed. I was actually recording a soundbite with one of the protesters. Then I had a call from my office in Moscow, and they said, something big is happening inside the parliament, you should have a look. So I quickly ran to the flight truck, and I had a look at the feed.
It turns out the chaotic protests outside Parliament are nothing compared to the scene brewing inside.
They were putting the Ukrainian flag on top of the seats, and thus they showed that they would not take their seats in order to take the vote.
The situation quickly accelerates when politicians begin hurling eggs and fists.
The Rada speaker, Vladimir Litvin, was hiding behind an umbrella with eggs being thrown at him. Maybe the umbrellas were brought in just for, the purpose from hiding from the rain, but eventually they found their own very good usage with the security guards of the parliamentary speaker protecting their boss.
Throughout the room, politicians are locked in battle with one another, punching, pushing, slapping, even pulling hair. As bizarre as this video may seem, in the Ukraine, this is politics as usual.
Disputes in Ukrainian parliament, in Ukrainian politics, have always been resolved in a rather peculiar way.
But this fight becomes unlike anything Ukrainians have ever seen. Although reporters and parliament guests go through security screenings to get into the building, lawmakers do not, and they've carried in more than just eggs.
I saw a smoke grenade explode and the whole parliament hall was covered with smoke. I mean, we've seen a lot of stuff, but this is something out of hand completely.
Reporter Olga Chernikova is inside Parliament when the smoke bombs go off.
We were standing upstairs in a press box when the smoking bombs thrown. All the gas, all the smokes went up exactly where we're standing and filming. I helped my cameraman out of the press balcony to the open window to let him to breathe with the fresh air.
Nobody is seriously hurt, but there are more than a dozen injuries. But smoke bombs, fistfights, and eggs are not enough to stop the deal from going through. Although they do ensure that it will not be forgotten.
It is hard to say whether another incident like that may happen inside the parliament. Certainly that one was the loudest and the biggest one. It still makes waves in the Ukrainian politics. Everyone remembers how the smoke bombs were thrown inside the parliament.